Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Burn Barrel Podcast. I'm trying to speak like the stripper guy. You know how they sound, right? The guy who does the PA for
No.
strippers, exotic dancers. You've been in a strip joint before.
Nope.
Alice.
I haven't.
You know what? You've got too many grazing lies out in the pasture to shepherd in at this point. It's fine. I'm not saying you were dancing. I'm just saying ever like with the girls on
No, I've never
the thing.
have.
Okay. Well, there's a guy who says, next up, Carrie. Please give it all for Carrie. Please, she's going to, make sure you tip your bartenders. Welcome back to Kitty's, or whatever it is.
Sounds really fun.
Not the restaurant Kitty's, which I love, by the way, which serves tripe, North Riding, Massachusetts.
Great restaurant.
It's a great restaurant, and they've got a cafe. Okay. So, here's the deal. First of all, a little bit of housekeeping, Alice. I went into the grocer's freezer today, and a guy said to me, hey, buddy, I like your shirt. I looked at him and said, and then I gave him a thumbs up. And I have the child torturing Democrats, CT Dems Burn Barrel shirt. It's a good-looking shirt. I rarely wear it out because I don't want somebody to cold cock me or ask me what's going on. So today I wore it out because I couldn't find any others. And I thought, if they ask me what it is, I'll just say it's a band or something. I don't want any trouble. But it occurs to me that since I got the compliment on it, it's a good-looking shirt. And I wonder if, since that guy said it, and then waited for me to react, and then gave me the thumbs up, is that more and more people understand the fact is that the Democrats just themselves are not great right now. Not doing great. So, Pete, by the way, you can get one of these shirts. I'm hawking it now. Go get it. Maybe somebody will say something to you. And I was technically in Massachusetts when somebody said something, so there you go. Maybe it doesn't matter. All you have to do is have Democrats. It's interesting. All he had to see was child torturing Democrats, and he was on board. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So true. So that's at burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's a shop link there if you're looking for that.
Thank you. And that's all about the mask mandates for kids and this closing down schools and really just screwing up the kids, which, of course, they did. Okay. So, Alice, I believe we've come to, I don't want to say crossroads because that's overused, and I don't want to say crossroads. But I think we're at a point now where we have to reintroduce a thought that I didn't think we would have to previously.
Okay.
So let me just play this here for you. This is I'll read something first. This is a tweet from Corinne Jean-Pierre.
Okay.
This is the top tweet.
Pin tweet?
No, this is not a pin tweet, but this is the top tweet if you put Corinne in for her.
Okay.
And this is between this and what the person, some idiot said earlier today, I'm wondering if we have hit a point. 7 hours ago, Corinne Jean-Pierre tweeted, "We just received news that our economy had zero inflation in July. While the price of some things went up, the price of others, like gas, clothing, and more, dropped." Once again, she tweeted out, "We just received news that our economy had zero inflation in July." Zero inflation in July. So now, also today, around the same time, Joe Biden came out and said this
about the news that came out today relative to the economy. Actually, I just want to say a number. Zero. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%.
Okay, so obviously, inflation numbers came out today. Inflation is annualized 8.5%.
Yes.
It's down about 0.5% over since last month. 8.5 is the highest it's been since 1982. So the administration now says, since last month it said we had 9.0 or 9.1, and now it's 8.5, that we have zero inflation.
Right, because last month, on average, you're not seeing across all sectors a big jump. Now, some things are going up.
Of course. But year over year, and unless you've received a 10% pay raise, you felt this, and some things are going way up.
Right, because most people's finances aren't that flexible. Okay, go ahead.
So they know this, obviously. I've already read a bunch of people and heard a bunch of people on podcasts say this is fairly remarkable, but it's not fairly remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. They're now telling you that our economy has zero inflation in the month of July, which is not only, of course, an insanely false thing to say, because, in fact, our economy had historic inflation in July.
Right.
But it has me thinking that is not only an incorrect,
insane statement.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But it also tells you that the administration does not care to be accurate or empathize. They obviously have no way out of it. They just made a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, which you didn't have to call that. If you wanted to call it like the Fiscal Responsibility Act, you could have. But to call it the Inflation Reduction Act, when you run it through all these think tanks, whatever, and nobody could find a way to say that was accurate, because it's not accurate. Between that, and it's been a year since the Afghanistan thing, when it wouldn't be another Saigon, but people fell off of the wheel wells of the planes leaving Afghanistan. American troops got blown up. It was a complete cluster. The oil industry's dead. Putin feels free. Whatever, between that. But the fact that the communications person tweeted out, guess what? Congratulations to us. This is history. We just received news that our economy had zero inflation in July. Here's my conundrum.
Okay.
Add to that they, for no reason, are rifling through Melania Trump's wardrobe, the feds, and going through Donald Trump stuff, because the archives, because he might have stuff that he's not supposed to have in boxes at his place. And the people in New York, the Letitia James or whatever, is trying to get him there for having juiced the value of his property to try to get a bank loan and this and that, which is obviously the kind of thing that he is used to handling that stuff for years. Looking at what's going on in New York, mostly looking at what's going on, just New York as a state, in Washington. And you know what? Let me add one thing to this.
Okay.
Trump did they did and released a new ad yesterday. Mm-hmm. I think I have this. So here's the new Trump ad. Or should I even bother saying this? I wasn't blown away by the ad, but I listened to the commentary podcast, and Podhoretz was. So I'm going to play a little bit of this. It's all black and white to start.
We are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in over 40 years, where the stock market just finished the worst first half of a year in more than 5 decades. We are a nation that has the highest energy cost in its history, and we are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, which we were just 2 short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for oil. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving behind dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. We are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. We're a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never before. We've never seen anything like this. We're a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is about all you get. We're a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant like never before, where the economy has been collapsing, where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. We're a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it's taken from the United States to build a military to rival our own. We are a nation that over the past 2 years is no longer respected or listened to all around the world. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty and freedom and faith. We are a nation whose economy is floundering, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every list. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. But soon we will have greatness again. It was hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and it is hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country. There is no mountain we cannot climb. There is no summit we cannot reach. There is no challenge we cannot meet. There is no victory we cannot have. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. Ever, ever, ever. We will never give in. We will never give up. And we will never, ever back down. We will never let you down. As long as we are confident and united, the tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a little chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
So
Now, hold on. So, you heard that Trump ad.
yeah.
Everything he ticked off. Mm-hmm. Everything he said.
Yes.
Everything in that ad was true.
Yeah, I think so, pretty much.
He's absolutely right about all of that stuff. You can't be serious. How can I help you?
See you later.
I mean, how many...
Okay. So,
well, hold on.
okay.
Here's my feeling is this. Mm-hmm. Once again, you've got Joe Biden here saying this.
What about the news that came out today relative to the economy? Actually, I just want to say a number. 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%.
$5 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. We are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. We're a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never before. We've never seen anything like this.
So here's my... Do we need to call a meeting? You know the buzzing that was just happening here? That
Yes.
totally upended
Yes.
any kind of flow, whatever?
Yes.
That is the Biden administration's performance. No, listen, I'm really serious. I'm serious.
Yes.
Everything Trump said is right.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? January 6th, you and I had a show. We had John Gabriel on.
Mm-hmm.
We were all very upset and said, that's it. Trump needed to act, and he didn't act for those 3 hours. That was dereliction of duty. That was it. We're out. Done.
Yeah. Condemn the bad behavior.
Right.
We slammed him. We slammed the rioters.
Well, I understand that, but we
that.
also said essentially that it was a zero confidence. We since subsequently have moved on to the exciting DeSantis, who's wonderful.
Yes.
To me, as recently as a few days ago, only one thought of one person came to mind, and that was only DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible that between the horrible governance that we've seen in the last couple of years, and then we've seen in Congress all the time, and what we've seen with them going to Mar-a-Lago, this force, and all these other people trying to destroy this guy, is it possible? I'm going to just play a little bit part of this again.
Soon we will have greatness again. It was hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and it is hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country. There is no mountain we cannot climb. There is no summit we cannot reach. There is no challenge we cannot meet. There is no victory we cannot have. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. Ever, ever, ever. We will never give in. We will never give up. And we will never, ever back down. We will never let you down. As long as we are confident and united, the tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a little chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
This guy, one second. This last 18 minutes has a point.
Okay.
This guy is unpresidential. He is unorthodox. He is ill-tempered sometimes, ill-mannered. He is inappropriate at times. He does not speak like a proper diplomat at times. He does not speak with the diplomacy of even a Washington politician. Is it possible that Trump is better than the establishment? Is it possible that his whole show, his whole band of craziness is much better than the establishment? Certainly better than this guy in there right now.
Oh, yeah. Who has the benefit and the support of all the establishment behind him? Every establishment person wants Biden to succeed, certainly voted for him, but is willing to work in his administration, is willing to run cover for him in the media. The political establishment essentially all works for Biden at this point. I mean, and works for him in the sense that they're in loco parentis sort of here because he's like not here mentally. They're, running the show, really. This is the establishment. What you see right now is Washington's political establishment running Washington the way they think is a good idea. And we saw what Trump running Washington, D.C. looked like. It had moments that I absolutely hated, where I wished he would disappear into a hole in the ground. And it had moments where, he was terrible during parts of COVID. He was terrible. I mean, he had a lot of flaws as a person.
Well,
however, overall, the 4 years...
He was terrible during parts of COVID. Have we seen anybody do COVID right yet as president in this country?
Yeah, I mean, he just would come out and say annoying things.
His behavior was terrible.
Right.
The precious vaccine wasn't terrible.
Right. So, yes, his behavior was terrible, but his approach was overall effective. Correct? Like his policy approach, even though he's personally annoying. Which is true of him on a lot of issues, I think.
So what is the thing to do? What's the responsible thing to do? To want the establishment bureaucracy to be its best? Or to want a behaviorally, we'll say, unfit person who's better at running things to run things?
Is there a reason we can't have both? Like, is there a reason we can't have a person who runs things well and is not crazy?
I don't know if he's crazy. I know that he loves...
Okay.
I mean, what's crazy?
If he's not the way he
Isn't stupid is as stupid does?
I guess so. But, I mean, like, I feel less embarrassed by DeSantis.
He never said that Border Patrol agents strapped people and then put on a
I think it's demonstrably just... I don't think you can even argue which was better, the Trump presidency or the Biden presidency, which is the establishment presidency. I mean, I don't even think you can argue that Trump wasn't better than Obama. Like, Trump was certainly better than all the recent presidents of my lifetime that I can remember, just in terms of effectiveness of policy and how well things went in the country, right? You can't argue with that. That's just the reality of how life went for most people in the country under Trump, right? And so, but my question is now, having had the example of Trump, I mean, I think one of the things that's good about like DeSantis is that he's learned the lessons of Trump. You know, I also think Trump presidency 2.0 would be different than Trump presidency 1.0. Maybe better, maybe worse. I don't know. But I think that he's changed a lot from his experience of the election stuff and the January 6th stuff and everything.
I think the difference is, Alice, and I'm workshopping this here.
Okay, I'm listening.
The difference might be that, especially with this going after Mar-a-Lago stuff, going after the guy's home stuff, is that this would be an opportunity for the citizenry to smash the establishment by putting this guy who's in their crosshairs. It's like making Mandela, the president of South Africa. That makes a statement. Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost as if with this persecution, that Trump almost deserves to be back in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how a lot of people feel. So it was a good primary night for Trump-endorsed candidates last night, including in your home state of Connecticut, where you live and work, sort of. And I think that the Mar-a-Lago raid played in.
Totally.
I think that people's attitudes about Trump shifted because the FBI did this. I mean, towards Trump. Maybe on the left in like blue anon circles, maybe they shifted away from Trump, right? Maybe or I don't know if they can shift more away from Trump, but maybe it makes them think that he's about to be indicted or something, or he's finally going down. But I think, honestly, if anything, this Mar-a-Lago raid made him more likely to be the Republican presidential nominee than anything else that they could have done. And as someone who would rather see somebody else in there, if for no other reason than just age alone, right? Like, I've had enough Trump. I've had enough drama.
I understand, Alice, and so have I, but this changes things.
It does. It's true. I mean, and I think it changes things for a lot of people, right? And, I mean, part of me even thinks that could have been intentional by the Biden administration and Justice Department. Like, they think Trump is more beatable than other GOP people, so they're trying to suck him back into the public eye, right? I mean, if they did this thinking that this would ruin his chances in 2024... Would they do that
again, Alice? Again?
If they did this thinking that this would ruin his chances in 2024, they badly miscalculated. Because this has just, I assume, I don't think there's any polls post Mar-a-Lago raid, but I would think that just based on my sense of the vibes, that this has like boosted his polling with Republicans now.
Oh, there's no way that's not true. That's definitely true. But for people who don't want anything to do with them, who are sick of the brand, I think you've almost cleaned him and rebranded him.
Yeah, now he's the guy the FBI is going after.
Yes. If people don't remember, before, the Trump of the 80s is not like the Trump now. Even the Trump of the Trump who's on defense.
The Trump of 2015 is not the Trump of now.
Right. Or during the presidency. This is a guy who can reinvent himself. And, I mean, if he can, who knows? Who knows? I mean, if he drones all about the stolen election, then That's not rebranding himself. That's the old thing. But what makes this event more of the main event, other than something on the undercard, is the high stakes. They're trying the establishment. It's not anymore that the establishment is eschewing him, laughing at him. They're trying to put him in jail, and they're trying to put a lot of his followers in jail, including some of the January 6th people. When they put the guy in the Antlers in jail and said, "We're going to give you a tougher sentence because you epitomize, you're an iconic example of the January 6th."
The image of you is associated with the event.
Well, F you people. F you people.
Mm-hmm.
That is not acceptable.
Well, and we didn't talk about this on the show, even though I had kind of prepped to talk about it potentially. But the January 6th stuff is fascinating because, obviously you and I we're not fans of that whole thing. But the way that it's being handled by the Justice Department and by the judges and stuff is really, I think, out of the norm, right? So, take this guy, Brandon Strzok, the walk-away guy who put himself in the cage performance art at CPAC. He signed a plea agreement, and he, pled guilty. He's on probation. He didn't get jail time. And the judge is now trying months later to drag him back into court because he's been on TV saying that he didn't really do the stuff he pled to, or implying that he didn't really do the stuff he pled to in his plea agreement. And she essentially said to his lawyer, well, first of all, the reason the judge is even weighing in on this is because the court leaked things about him that were supposed to remain confidential due to, quote, human error, right? So he cooperated with investigators, and they leaked that he cooperated with investigators on purpose that wasn't supposed to be public. That was part of his plea deal. So his lawyer was back in court, and the judge essentially said, based on his appearances on Tucker Carlson and all this other stuff, I don't think he's contrite anymore, and I don't think that he really thinks he did it anymore. And if that's the case, then he can come back here and we can hold an evidentiary hearing to decide if we need to take back his plea deal. I'm happy to take it back if he wants to do that. What is that? What is that? Have you ever heard of such a thing? People take plea deals all the time. Now, I get it. If you lie in your plea deal, that's perjury. You're under oath. You have to swear that you agree to confess to the things, right? But you have freedom of speech in this country. So you have the freedom of speech to go out later and say that whatever you want, really, that you believe now, right? You can say oh, I thought at the time it sounded like I was saying it on the tape, and I don't. So what he got charged for, what he's on probation for, is yelling to people, go, 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 to go into the Capitol. And it's on video, and he doesn't think it was him saying go, go, go now. He thought maybe he agreed that it was him saying go, go, go at the time in his plea deal. So this is what he's pleading to, first of all. So let's just talk about the underlying crime for a second, because I kind of think, I understand why people aren't allowed to lie in court and under oath and all this stuff, right? But I kind of think that when you have these, just like with Trump, or just like with Flynn getting caught on lying to the FBI, which is what they're threatening to charge this guy Brandon Strzok with, right? I kind of think that when there's not an underlying crime, these lying to the government or obstruction or perjury, these types of charges on weird technicalities when the actual crime didn't happen is a little weird, right? So, he can come out now. Perjury or lying to the government would mean he actually would have had to have consciously lied at the time, right? So he could come out and say you know what? We listened to the tapes a lot of times. I don't have very clear memories of the day. I thought it was me saying it on the tape, but now the more I listen to it, I don't think so anymore. He's allowed to change his mind. That's legal in America. So what? Then they're going to drag him back into court and take back his plea deal because he's not convinced he said go, go, go anymore?
I'm less worried about that than the fact that these people have to go through these struggle sessions with their plea bargains that say that you have to admit that the vote was fair and that it did happen, and it was the most
fairest election ever. Yeah.
And it's weird, Russ, and if you don't, then we're going to punish you even more.
Well,
and it's all colluded. The media's in it, and Democratic politicians are in it as well. You have to think this was the most prestigious election ever. Well, do you? Do you? Was it someone? Do you? Which is only something reserved for 2020 and Trump supporters.
Well, right.
Which is the same thing as kicking down the door and going through your stuff is only reserved for Trump.
Well, and that's part of what this judge is saying, too, is she's saying because you're appearing on these shows like Tucker Carlson and going to CPAC and stuff, I don't think you're contrite. You told us in your plea deal you were contrite, so you lied to us. So you don't sound contrite to me anymore, so we're going to bring you back into court and take back your plea deal for you. I mean, what kind of weird arrangement is that where you make a plea deal and you agree to it and you are on probation and doing your thing and not breaking your probation, and the judge gets to say, no, we take back the plea deal because we don't agree with your political views. It's a little extreme, is it not? And so this guy, Brandon Strzok, when he was at CPAC, one of the things he pointed out is that now 3 January 6th defendants have committed suicide, and 2 of them are only charged with misdemeanors. And that's people get charged with misdemeanors all the time and don't kill themselves. And this is not a normal thing that's happening, right? They're being treated differently by the government because of their political views, because the DOJ and the federal government wants to make an example of them.
Right.
Because they've decided that this thing was like a threat to democracy or whatever they want to call it. And they want to make sure that nobody ever thinks that the right can play the left's games again. Because that's what this was. This was the right acting like the left, which is why I didn't like it, by the way. But it's the right acting on one day the way the left acted the entire summer of 2020.
You're absolutely right.
So, I mean, this episode is definitely going to get us booted from YouTube. But
except in the left, they wouldn't call what was happening in the streets anything,
No, they said it was great.
Protests and but here's some Trump Tower. A guy is asked about he wants Trump to be arrested. He's got an arrest Trump banner.
Is this unprecedented to arrest a former president for not turning in documents?
A former president that had committed this many provable criminal acts.
But what are the provable criminal acts, I guess?
Provable criminal acts. Well, I'm done talking.
Of course. I mean, if there were provable criminal acts, somebody would have proved them and Trump would be in trouble, which hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what happens. But the federal government has already proven themselves willing to lie to get warrants.
We're going to say in conclusion, I cannot have this buzzing. It is my fault. This is too much stuff happening here. But that's okay. I think we got to the point here, and I think that this is what the point is that I think we've got to give Trump a second look, and that's something that I came around to today. I listened to a lot of people say the same thing.
So what was John Podhoretz's take?
No, he didn't
on the ad thing.
His take was that it was an incredibly effective ad, and and that person could be president again. That was his take.
Can you guys not pick flowers that are growing outside, please? That haven't bloomed yet? Please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that is it for today. That is it.